Hello everybody, Brad Johnson here, and welcome to another episode of Inner Practices. In this episode, we're going to be speaking about the levels of clairsenses. So looking at clairsense ability, from clairvoyance to clairaudience to clairgustance, claircognizance, etc. We all have these inner abilities. We all have these inner senses as it relates to the clairs that we can refer to in that way. And clair is just a French word that basically represents clarity, right? So we're basically looking into inner clarity. So we have an inner clarity of vision, we have an inner clarity of hearing, an inner clarity of cognizance, etc. So each of us have the clair abilities. Basically, we have different levels as it relates to the clairs. So we would start at the lower level here, which I would term as a subtle level. Okay, so that is the subtle level, which I'll get into in a minute. The second level here would be what I would call the moderate level. Okay, so that is kind of like the mid-level. Then we have the higher level, which we call vivid. So starting off with the subtle level here, if we were to, for example, have clairvoyance, which I'll just put up here, that the clairvoyant subtle level would just be the idea of like a brief glimpse, right? Like a flicker of a frame of vision that comes into us. It's very, very small. It's very minute. Again, it's very subtle. But we all have that. We all have that littlest, tiniest aspect of subtle vibration when it comes to something like clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, etc. It's not a lot, but it's something that we can notice if we pay attention. So some people may just start talking to somebody. All of a sudden that person says a trigger word to that individual, and all of a sudden this person gets like a flash of like a mountainside, and they can't really explain what happened. It's just the idea that this flash came in so quickly. It was like a quarter of a second in and out, but they got this flash because of this trigger word. This person says, oh yeah, I'm looking to go up to Mount Everest, right? And poof, all of a sudden we just get that flash. Maybe it's not of Mount Everest, but it's of a mountain, right? That's the idea of a subtle transmission, of a subtle relay relating to that of clairvoyance. So we have a very subtle, minute, small, tiny aspect of clairvoyance that flows through us. Well, what about the moderate level? If we're looking into the moderate level here. Well, the moderate level, if we're looking into the idea of clairvoyance, is that we may just see a brief picture. It may stay with us for maybe a couple of seconds, but we're noticing a lot more clear detail with it. With this one, we just kind of got a flicker of a mountain like this, and then it kind of faded off. It wasn't 100% clear. We couldn't really see the texture of the mountain, but we just knew it was a mountain altogether. Whereas the moderate would say, oh yeah, there's some detail in the mountain here. And it lasts for a couple of seconds, and then it kind of dissolves away, right? So that's the moderate level. So we're seeing a little bit more detail. So detail comes into play once we start to connect with the moderate level of the clairsense. In question, example, clairvoyance, okay? So the subtle level is kind of like a quick flash, but we know something was there. The moderate level is still a little bit quick, but we were able to get some detail on that level. And of course, we're looking at the vivid level. So now looking at the vivid level of clairvoyance, this could be the point where our inner vision is so clear. There's so much clarity within our inner vision that not only are we seeing mountains, but we're actually able to see the wind coming in. It's starting to blow the trees. We may start to see some grass, and we see the grass swaying as well too. It's so vivid. It's like taking a camera and just filming this environment out in nature. Everything just feels so vivid. And that, again, is the higher level of what we would refer to as the clairsense. Now, this vividness could come together into external reality, and that we are actually seeing an apparition. So a person is just in their house, they go up to go to the bathroom, all of a sudden they see this apparition just walking through their door, and then all of a sudden it's gone. But for about 2 seconds, they're able to see this apparition floating outside. And let's say there's 2 other people there, and that person points and says, "Did you guys just see that? Something just flew through the door." They look and say, "What are you talking about? There's nothing there," right? Well, that's the idea again, is kind of what I would call extra vivid. Extra vivid, extra sensory clairvoyance. So you could refer to it as extra vivid when it's actually affecting the external reality. So it certainly is in the vivid category. But what I've discovered is that people who can see things very clearly within will often see these type of apparitions, or again, forms of entities that can appear in physical reality as well too. So that's why they're very, very closely related. But we could basically look at this as a sub-branch to extra vividness, where we're actually seeing apparitions, or we're talking to spirits, or beings in that sense that are astral beings that can actually project themselves into the room and start having a conversation with one who may be quite extra vivid, relating to communicating with spirit. So these are giving us a basic idea of some of the levels of our clair senses, right? So it could be that you're very, very sharp with clairvoyance. You may have that vividness when it comes to clairaudience, the ability to hear from within. Maybe it's subtle. When it comes to claircognizance, the feeling of instantaneous knowing, the aha moments, the downloads. Okay, maybe it's moderate. So when I get that feeling of moderateness, it's just like a clicking realization. Oh my God, I realize that something is downloading into me. I'm feeling it, and I'm able to share it, right? So vivid, when you're basically in a vivid aspect of claircognizance, you're just carrying on an entire conversation without any thought in the way whatsoever, right? This download, this stream of information is so vivid, clear, great clarity through you. You're just speaking through it. You're allowing it to come through you and just sharing this incredible speech, and you just weren't thinking a thing. Your mind was completely blank. Well, that's exactly what I go through when I start channeling Adronis, right? So when I'm looking at claircognizance, my ability with him is very vivid, right? That's my strongest ability, is claircognizance. Secondary would be clairempathy, or empathic nature. Thirdly would be clairvoyance. It would be kind of in between these two, between subtle and moderate levels. So sometimes I can be really, really good with clairvoyance coming together. Sometimes it may just be a little bit in the background, but it kind of fluctuates between these two. I've never really had the aspect of it being extra vivid. I have had some vivid clairvoyant experiences, usually when I'm just about to fall asleep, or if I'm just waking up in the middle of the night, then my clairvoyance is very vivid. I have had experiences, I would say, with external reality with extra vividness. Very, very rare. But I have seen people. It was actually an old partner of mine that we were together back in 2013. And she was asleep, and I woke up, and I saw these 2 people just standing right over her. It was like a woman and a man. But the woman just had like the most blank of faces, and the man kind of had like a black frilly beard. And they were just kind of looking down at her. And all I remember saying to them was like, "Can I help you? Why are you here? What's going on?" And then I kind of blinked, and as I blinked, they went away. So I've had a couple of those experiences. The second time, actually I would say 2 times, is when Adronis has actually come through. And he basically represented kind of a grayish silver silhouette. And he would hold up a palette that contained light circuitry on it. And this was too around the same time, around 2013. So he would just appear as this apparition of a gray silhouette, and he would hold up this palette. And this palette had light circuitry contained upon it. And he was there for about 30 seconds. And I could actually hear background music as well too, which is kind of interesting. It was kind of almost like an ambient, kind of like a mellow ambient tone in the background while he was just kind of popping in and seeing this. So the second time he came through, I was also seeing kind of like a fence gate. And there was like a big house in the background. Not very good drawing, I know, but... And then, of course, light circuitry started to pop in as well, too. So that was telling me that I was opening a gateway, I was entering a gateway, and that these light circuits were letting me into this new experience, this new gateway that was coming together. So I've had a couple of extra vivid experiences, but it's not something that I have quite often. Very, very rare, okay? So what is it about these 3 levels that I wanted to talk about? Because I've heard a lot of people in sessions say, Brad, I don't have anything. I don't have any psychic senses whatsoever. And I tune into them and I say, no, I'm sorry to say, but you're absolutely incorrect. You do have senses, just that they're at a very, very subtle level. They need to be exercised. You need to exercise your senses in the best way that you can. One of the best ways to do that is that if we're looking at the human brain, again, I apologize for my bad drawing, but basically when we're looking at the neurochemicals, we want to ensure that we are cleaning out the neurochemicals within our brain, right? So when we're bringing in melatonin, serotonin, we want to make sure that they are pristine, right? And in order for us to have pristine neurochemical neurotransmitters, we got to detoxify our body, right? So we want to get the metals out of our body, we want to get the bacteria out of our body, the harsh bacteria, the viruses, the pathogens. We want all of that gone. We want to clean ourselves up as much as possible if we really want to develop our psychic abilities. Then when we have really good health, our liver's in good shape, our organs are in good shape, our bodies are in good shape, then we're noticing that as we practice our clairsensibility through meditation, through inner work, it's so clear, okay? When I've done fasts and cleanses in the past, psychic ability hiked up like crazy, okay? Now, there are some people who may not be in the greatest of health who still do have some very powerful psychic ability. And that's true, that can certainly happen. But it's usually recommended that a person work on completely detoxifying themselves as well. Because for a person to have these kind of levels, in the vivid level, you want to have pristinely clear neurotransmitters, right? Your neurochemical level, your neurotransmitter levels are pristine. They're not being bombarded by toxins, by metals, by anything of that debris nature, right? So we want to clean ourselves out as best as we can. And that is what I'm doing right now. I'm currently on a cleanse myself right now as a means of coming into the new space, as you see here, and just working with healthy eating, healthy diet, and just uplifting energy, because my intention is to really bring up the psychic levels as high as I can in as many categories as I can, right? But it's kind of like looking like we have 1 full cup of what we could call our psychic liquid. And now we have a bunch of other smaller cups here, okay? Each of these smaller cups represent a particular clairsense. So here's one for clairvoyance, clairaudience, claircognizance, I'll just put G, clairempathy, E, right? And so we have maybe a little bit here, some here. We're really, really good with claircognizance, and we're pretty moderate with clairempathy. And of course, we could have a couple more as well too. But what we're doing is if we want to really have that change, we need to start working together with the cups, because we only have so much liquid to work with when we're pouring it into these cups. So these cups will have our psychic liquid, and we need to balance themselves out. We need to balance out these liquid cups that contain these psychic senses. So if we want to feel like we want to have a lot more clairvoyance, and that our claircognizance is pretty high, then maybe we can trim a little bit off there and add a little bit more to clairvoyance. So it's like looking at scales, right? We're balancing out the scales. So what we're doing is we're just instructing our body to bring about, let's say, 20% of our claircognizant level to go over to our clairvoyance. Well, why do we want to do that? We want to communicate more visually with spirit. I'll just say that, I won't need to write it down. But we want to communicate much more clairvoyantly with spirit. We want to communicate in that way. So again, we reach a negotiation, we meditate, we do breathing techniques, We start to work with melatonin supplements, serotonin. We start to bring, again, great pristine energy into our neurotransmitters. And now we're noticing that there's a transfer going on, okay? So we can actually shift the water in between these cups. But again, it is negotiable with spirit, right? You do have to negotiate with it, because spirit may say, well, let's not have too much off of the claircognizance, because that's how you're getting a lot of your information right now. We can put a little bit in there. It may not be 20%. I will allow 12% to come from claircognizance into clairvoyance and help you to adjust your levels, okay? So you have to talk to spirit. You have to talk to your clairsenses. And you just go into meditation and you will feel when these changes happen. A lot of the times it happens overnight. A lot of times it happens in the dream time, okay? But this is very, very possible. I've done it myself, especially with clairvoyance. I've boosted it up quite a few times. It's lasted a little while, and then it kind of comes back down again, right? So if you have a very good reason why you want to rebalance your inner senses, then that can be done. For those of us who may be very, very numb when it comes to our clairsense, as I stated, everybody is at least at this level, okay? There is nobody that has a null sense, okay? That would be like us not being able to have any particular forms of senses within our body. Well, that would be pretty terrifying. The same thing goes with us, right? We do not have null sense, right? You would basically have to have your pineal gland removed. You'd have to have certain areas of your brain physically removed to basically have interruption that may lead to some type of null effect here. But all of us, I would say at least many of us that don't have that effect, have at least subtle energy, okay, flowing through us. So again, it's like going to the gym. It's like exercising a muscle. It's practicing. We're working with our inner senses. We're making our inner senses as strong as our outer senses, right? When we're a baby, we're, constantly sucking our thumb. We're sucking our finger. We're making noises. We're screaming, right? We're blinking our eyes. We're looking around, right? We're stimulated by everything. Well, that's what we have to do with our inner senses. We have to go back to that inner baby again. Right? We have to stimulate, we have to envision, we have to touch, we have to feel. We have to feel these thoughts coming into us for claircognizance, right? We stimulate ourselves internally. So you allow your internal senses to be stimulated to move from here to here, because it can happen, right? When we start to stimulate this a lot more, guess what happens? More liquid comes into the master cup of our psychic liquid, for example. Okay? The cup starts to get a little bit more liquid because we're doing a lot of inner work. Our body is building up with this, and now we're actually noticing that the cup is going up a little bit. It may not be a lot, but it's a little bit. And now that it's going up a little bit, it can transfer into these smaller glasses relating to our clairsenses altogether. So what it takes is practice, inner practice, right? That's why it's called inner practices. So meditate, envision a mountain, envision a shape, a color, right? Get used to hearing your own voice within your mind, because when you're looking at clairaudience on a subtle level, it just feels like it's a thought that has a voice behind it, right? It's like a voice without a voice. So basically you say, okay, what should I do today? And there's all of a sudden there's this impulse within your mind that says, get dressed and go outside, right? Get dressed and go outside. I felt I heard something there, right? It was very, very subtle, very quiet, but I just felt like it was almost like a voice that was voiceless, right? That's the subtle level of clairaudience when we're moving up into the moderate level. This happens to me a lot when I'm just about to go to sleep or when I wake up in the morning. All of a sudden I just hear, Brad, right? And it wasn't outside, but it was kind of like, Brad, wake up, right? So I'll get that impression that someone was saying my name, and it felt like it was pretty strong, but it wasn't like it was being whispered to me or anything of that nature. I just heard it within. It's kind of like if we were to, kind of close our eyes and just say the word popcorn in your mind. Okay? It's like that. Sometimes it's a little bit higher up in the audibility. Almost like popcorn, right? But again, that's how it can happen, absolutely. So I do get a lot of those moderate bursts relating to clairaudience. And then vivid is almost like somebody is talking to us with great clarity. It's like someone just right next to us and saying, well, this is what you have to do today. Put on your clothes and go outside. So you hear that so clearly. It's like somebody is right in front of you, talking to you, but no one's there, right? So that's the strong clairaudience, where a person feels like there's like a whisper coming into their ear, or someone's yelling into the ear, but it's so loud, right? So sometimes it can feel inner. Again, it can be extra vivid as well too, where we can feel like a spirit is coming in and we can hear them talk. We can hear this voice that's coming within our room and it's talking to us. Well, that's again the extra vivid category as well too. So we have that subtle, moderate, and vivid level. The more that you practice, the more that you do your inner work, the more that you start to clean yourself out as well too. You'll get a little bit of extra liquid in the master glass, and now you can distribute that into the corresponding clairsense glasses as well too. So practice this. Let me know how things go as well too. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm Brad Johnson, and I look forward to speaking to you again in the next video. Take care, namaste, and may it be well with you. Goodbye.